year the book was written before I wrote my letter. May 20th. Dear Mr. Heffley, we regret to inform you that the author to whom you have written, Mr. Hawthorne, passed away more than a century ago. As such, he will not be able to respond to your questions. With regrets, Katrina Welker, Publisher. Most parents don't like the Underpants Bandits books either. In fact, the PTA had a meeting that year where they decided parents' tax dollars shouldn't be used to purchase any of the Underpants Bandits books for the library. These kids should really be reading more educational books, not the Underpants Bandits and Gandhi's Undergarments. When we came back to school from spring break, all of the Underpants Bandits books in the library were gone. I hope these adults are happy when a whole generation of boys grow up not knowing how to read. When the school banned the Underpants Bandits books, it just made them more popular than ever. Some boys snuck in copies from home and passed them on to other kids. The boys' bathroom became the most popular spot for trading them. One kid even brought in a bootleg copy of an Underpants Bandits book from Japan. It was the one about Leonardo da Vinci and the theft of the Mona Lisa's underpants. I couldn't understand a word of it, but it was pretty easy to figure out from the pictures what was going on. I actually wrote to the author on my own, just to tell him how much I liked his series. August 18th. Dear Mr. Davies, I'm just writing to tell you, don't listen to these people who say your books are garbage, because they don't know what they're talking about. I know a bunch of kids, including me, who think your books are great. As far as the rude humor goes, I find that stuff hilarious, so please don't change a thing. In fact, I would encourage you to put more bodily functions and things of that nature in your books. Sincerely, Greg Heffley. I'd never written a fan letter like that, and every day when I got home from school, I ran to the mailbox to see if Mick Davies had written me back. I finally got a response almost a year later, and I was really excited. But when I read the letter, it was a huge disappointment. From the desk of Mick Davies. Dear friend, unfortunately, I get so much fan mail that I'm not able to answer your letter personally. But I did want to tell you to be on the lookout for Underpants Bandits 24, Lincoln's Long Johns, coming soon to stores near you. Lots of yucks, Mick. I couldn't believe I poured my heart out to this guy, and all I got back was an ad. Even though that whole experience left a bad taste in my mouth, I still like his books. At least I get to read whatever I want this summer. Roderick's school gave him a whole list for required reading, and some of the books look like a lot of work. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, Moby Dick by Herman Melville, A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. But Roderick's not much of a reader, so he rented all the movie versions of the books on his list. Mom said it's not smart to watch the movie without reading the book, because they usually change a lot of stuff. But Roderick said as long as he got the basic idea, he'd be fine. I think his approach is going to cause problems, though. The Lord of the Rings is on his summer reading list, but when he rented the movie, he wasn't careful about checking the title. The movie was called Lords of the Ring. Roderick watched the movie twice, and after the second time, he told Mom that whoever wrote the book must be a genius. But I'm guessing Roderick's teacher is going to be pretty confused when she reads his book report in September, since the video was about professional wrestling. By the time I was done reading today, I really needed to get out of the car to prevent my legs from permanently cramping. Manny was still asleep, but he had somehow turned himself all the way upside down in his seat. When Mom noticed, she told Dad maybe we should stop driving for the day, so he pulled off at the next exit. I was really looking forward to eating a meal at a decent restaurant, but Mom said we're on a budget, and tonight we were going to pick up our dinner at a grocery store. Dad found a supermarket a few miles from the exit, but Mom was afraid that if the van stopped moving, Manny would wake up and have a fit. So Mom wrote out a shopping list for Roderick and gave him some money. Then Dad drove real slow in front of the entrance so Roderick could hop out. Dad had to circle the parking lot about 10 times, which wasn't easy since we were towing a boat. Eventually, Roderick came out with a couple bags of groceries, and from the looks of it, he picked up some extra items for himself. When Dad pulled the van around, Roderick hopped in. Then we started looking for a place to stay for the night, but the selection in the area wasn't that great. A few of the motels had big signs that said they had color TV, which, if you ask me, is not anything to brag about in this day and age. Dad finally pulled over at a place with air conditioning and a pool, which sounded pretty good to me, especially considering that I'd lost about 5 pounds in sweat sitting in the back seat. I haven't stayed in a whole lot of motels, but if I had to guess, I'd say we picked one on the lower end of the spectrum. The lobby smelled like mildew, and the carpet was covered in weird stains. But everyone was too tired to get back in the car and look for another place to stay. We got the key to our room, and when we walked in, it reeked of smoke. There were little holes in the comforter and pillows that I'm pretty sure were cigarette burns. Dad picked a towel off the floor, then dropped it because it was wet. Mom went back to the front desk and asked for a different room, but the clerk said the motel was full and that we'd gotten the last one. Mom told her in that case we were going to leave and take our business to another motel. But the clerk told her there was a 24-hour cancellation policy, so we couldn't get our money back. When Mom returned to the room, she said we were going to have to try and make the best of a bad situation. Then she and Dad stripped the bed down to the bare mattress. Believe it or not, Manny slept through all of this. Mom said that if he woke up now, he'd be awake all night, so she was just going to let him sleep through till morning. Mom put Manny down in the middle of the sofa bed and pulled a blanket over him. The rest of us were really hungry, so we emptied out the groceries Roderick bought. But it turned out he didn't buy anything on Mom's list. Roderick was supposed to get sandwich supplies, orange juice, and stuff like that, but he just got a bunch of things he likes, like bubblegum and cheese curls. Mom was pretty upset that Roderick didn't get a single thing on the list she gave him, but his excuse was that he couldn't read her handwriting. Mom told him it wasn't very smart to get cinnamon rolls and a frozen pizza, since those things needed an oven and we didn't have one. But Roderick said we could microwave the pizza. Then he put it inside the microwave oven to prove it. At least, Roderick thought it was a microwave. It was actually a safe. By the time he figured that out, the pizza was locked inside. Mom gave me what was left of her cash and said to go down to the vending machine to get the most nutritious stuff I could find. And that's how we ended up eating sugar wafers and breath mints for dinner on the first night of our road trip. Sunday. Last night we couldn't watch TV or do anything in the room because Manny was asleep on the pull-out sofa. Mom wouldn't even let us keep the light on, so we all sat in the dark for a while until me and Roderick decided to go down to the pool to kill some time. Well, the sign outside the motel said there was a pool, but there was no actual water in it, and it didn't look like there had been for at least 5 years. There was a hot tub near the pool that did have water in it, but some family was already using it, so me and Roderick waited our turn. Unfortunately, the family couldn't take a hint that we wanted to use the hot tub, so eventually, me and Roderick just went back to the room. The lights were still out, and Mom and Dad were asleep on the mattress. I guess they must have been pretty exhausted, because they were still wearing all their clothes. With Mom and Dad on the bed and Manny on the sofa, it didn't leave a lot of good sleep options for me and Roderick. We checked the closet for a cot or an air mattress, but there was nothing. Roderick was one step ahead of me, though. He gathered up the sofa cushions and made a bed for himself on the floor. 5 seconds later, he was out cold. I figured the closet was as good a place as any for me to sleep, so I got some towels out of the bathroom and laid them on the floor. After lying there for a minute, I noticed a terrible smell and thought a mouse must have died in the vent or something. I tried covering my nose with a washcloth, but that seemed to make the smell even worse. It was hard enough trying to fall asleep under those conditions, but then someone in the room started snoring. Luckily, I was prepared for that. Mom and Dad both snore, which is the reason I thought ahead and brought earplugs on the trip. But it was so dark in the room, I could only find one in my duffel bag, so I had to try sleeping with the earplug in my left ear and my other ear pressed to the floor. I did actually fall asleep for a few minutes, but woke up to some kind of ruckus going on outside. When I looked out the peephole, I saw something flash by, but I couldn't tell what it was, so I cracked open the door to see what was going on. It turns out those kids from the hot tub had gotten their hands on a cleaning cart and were ramming it into a wall. I couldn't believe these kids' parents were letting them run wild in the middle of the night, so I stepped out of the room and went over to give them a piece of my mind. The littlest kid burst into tears and ran into his room, and I didn't feel bad for even 1 second. But a minute later, his door opened again, and his father came out. He was this big, hairy guy, who I'm just going to call Mr. Beardo from now on. I wasn't about to get yelled at by a grown man in his underwear, so I ran back to our room and locked the door. Then I prayed with all my might that the chain lock was strong enough to keep him out. I guess the kid's dad didn't see which door I went into, because he knocked on the wrong one. Then he pounded on the door right next to ours before giving up and going back to his room. Once the coast was clear, I hung a little "Do Not Disturb" sign on our doorknob in case the guy decided to come back. It was really hard falling asleep after that, because every time I heard someone outside the door, I held my breath until they passed by. Before I knew it, the sun was up, and so was Manny. Mom turned on the television, and whenever Manny watches TV, he talks to it. "What sound does a ducky make?" "Quack, quack." I was a little annoyed with Manny blabbering away, but I guess I can't complain. I used to do the same exact thing when I was younger. One time, when I was watching my favorite show, the host asked a question. "What should I draw on this box?" "I don't know, polka dots?" I was just goofing around when I answered, but the guy on TV actually responded. "Okay, polka dots it is." I wish it never happened, though, because for a long time after that, I thought the people inside the TV could hear everything I said. "And how are you today?" I could be better. My brother Roderick, "That's great!" In fact, on my 6th birthday, Mom had to sit me down and have a talk about the difference between imaginary friends and real friends. Once Manny got going in a conversation with his favorite TV characters this morning, I knew there was no point in trying to fall back asleep. So I just got up for the day. And when I did, I found out the source of that awful smell. Roderick had put his shoes in the closet, and I had spent the whole night breathing in his fumes. But even worse was that the